the next case, a divorce between Rudy and Katrina. Next slide, please, Zach. Let's start with Freddie. Freddie, on what basis will the Indonesian court determine whether they have jurisdiction to grant a divorce?
Okay, so basically because the marriage was done under the Indonesian law, so or registered here at least, if they did the marriage under foreign law, so the Indonesian court would recognize the Indonesian marriage law, so they will accept the claim for the divorce, and they start process and give the decision.
Okay, thank you. Would the Indonesian court try to redistribute or change the Indonesian community property rights?
Yes. Normally, in the divorce claim, at least three main points to be there in the claim. Of course, number one is the divorce itself, by mentioning the reason. Number two, yes, about this community property. Number three, if they have children, the rights to take care of the children moving forward.
Okay. Would the Indonesian court follow and enforce the contents of a prenuptial agreement or postnuptial agreement?
In general, yes, they will check first whether the formality of the prenuptial or postnuptial already fully complied or perfected. Because it is quite common in Indonesia, the prenuptial, although the substance okay, but the formality somehow not really complied with. Same with the postnup. But the general answer, yes, they follow and enforce.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Yep, thanks. Freddie, would the Indonesian court try to issue any order to change the ownership rights of the Hong Kong Trust, or would they try to terminate the Hong Kong Trust?
I think this depends on the situation, on what is the case by case, yeah. But in case the Hong Kong Trust involved in the transfer that not comply with the community property rules, the court may give the order that the transfer not correct, so the 50% of the transferred assets to the Hong Kong Trust would be still owned by the spouse that do not involve in that transfer, because the absence of the spouse consent.
Freddie, just on that, insofar as the Indonesian court is concerned, if we've got community property of 50-50 to the spouses, and we've got a prenuptial or a nuptial agreement that basically respects that, it does other things, but it respects that their rights are 50-50. There's no chance of an Indonesian court making a discretionary order to disturb that 50-50 rule, is there? So they wouldn't just arbitrarily say that actually one spouse is entitled to 60% and the other is 40%, and then seek to dismantle foreign structures in order to achieve that division of property. Is that right? So they would generally respect the community and respect the prenuptial terms, and wouldn't go beyond and try and make a discretionary order disturbing those arrangements. Is that correct?
Yeah, okay. Generally they follow. The law give the opportunity for the third party actually who to this prenuptial, but they can prove the prenuptial or the postnup were made to cause damages to the third party. So the third party who suffer damages have an opportunity to submit the claim or debate or argue about the substance in the prenuptial.
Who would this third party be in practice?
Sorry?
Who would the third party be in practice that would challenge this?
In practice, to be honest, not really aware, or normally the court simply follow what stated in the prenuptial.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
All right. So, a question probably for you, Zach and John. Would the Indonesian divorce court seek to make a discretionary order varying the rights to foreign property, like in this case the US and BVI? You want to go first, John?
Sure. Yeah, I think from a U.S. perspective, absent a contention, the movable property is more likely to really not face any challenge or any grabbing of jurisdiction. The immovable property, the land, it's a little tougher. You really would have to look at the state jurisdiction, and if you've got a conveyance of that runs contrary to the treatment in that state, and there is some contention in play, then yeah, you've got a problem that you probably, hopefully, took advice on ahead of time and try to resolve that before you get into a contentious situation. I'd like to mention just real briefly on the prenuptial agreement, if that involves this outcome here, if there's a prenup involved and the Indonesia divorce court is trying to rely on it to enforce, there's a few elevated standards we'd want to see from a U.S. perspective. So independent counsel for each party, full forthrightness, all assets and accounts were declared. If one spouse wasn't aware of some of the assets at the time of the prenup, that's a strong indication that that prenup could be invalidated and might not be enforceable. And then it shouldn't address things like child custody or duties within or after the marriage, because those won't be enforceable under a prenup. And then for the prenup, not for postnup obviously, but for the prenup, really want to see that about 5 to 6 weeks before the wedding, not the day of or a few days out from it.
Yeah. From BVI perspective, I think, of course, BVI would probably be a matter of comity if BVI were to enforce a sort of foreign discretionary order dividing the BVI company. But I would have thought if, let's say in this case, Rudy remains in the jurisdiction of Indonesia, then the Indonesian court, if it were to make an order in this way, would have sanctions against Rudy in any event. And I think, Freddie, you could probably sort of confirm this, that if the Indonesian court were to make an order to Rudy to, let's say, transfer the shares or half of the shares in the BVI company, then if Rudy were to comply with that, then he'd effectively be in contempt of court and would probably be committed to prison if he didn't go on to do that. So it may not get to a point of enforcement in the BVI. Is that correct, Freddie?
Okay, for if Rudy did the transfer without the spouse consent and the spouse somehow claimed, two issues here. First, if the spouse think that this is a illegal transfer, so she thinks that the 50% belong to her, so yes, she can claim first on the civil law, so the meaning that the damages for the value of the assets. The second, if she thinks okay, maybe go to the criminal aspect, so the embezzlement may be considered.
Right, but if for whatever reason they wanted to transfer the BVI shares out of Rudy's sole ownership and also half of it, let's say, to Karina as part of the divorce settlement, if Rudy didn't comply with that order from the court, then he'd be in contempt, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I think if there is an Indonesian court order on the that instruct Rudy to return. That's depend on how the decision speaks, because the instruction itself also need to be supported or back up with the confiscation. Confiscation order should be also there. So how the claim drafted very important here, to make sure that the decision is not only the declaration but also declaration plus the further action.
Right.
The further action meaning that's including the confiscation, and then order the public auction and the proceeds given or transferred to the spouse.
Right. Okay.